Welcome to the 12th episode of It Wasn't Me, a true crime podcast, where we talk about murders that intrigue us. I am Cindy.
And I'm Mercedes. In this week's episode, we discuss the death of Joseph Andriano. Was it murder or was it suicide?
Thank you for listening to last week's episode where we examined a group of honor roll students whose robbery plot turned deadly. Our podcast is not recommended for children. Fair warning, this can be extremely horrifying and graphic, and we will use offensive language. So if you have kids, put them away for a while and join us for a murder. Also, be forewarned, we are passionate and always have been about true crime, but sometimes we will make jokes and we will laugh during this podcast.
For more information and links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, visit our website at itwasn'tmetruecrime.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, and please give us a 5-star rating. While you are there, leave a comment telling us which murder intrigues you. And if you like our show, please consider supporting us through patreon.com/itwasn'tmepod. We appreciate our Patreon supporters so much.
Hey Mercedes, how you doing?
I'm good, Cindy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
So, our listeners are listening to this on like January 4th, I think, when this will be released. But we're actually recording on Sunday, December 29th. We're still in 2019.
We are still in 2019.
Yeah, and we're on location. So
yes, we are in Gainesville, Florida today.
Yeah, you want to tell them why?
I don't know if you've checked out our website or not, but there are some photos of us, and I actually wear a medical mask. And the reason for that is because I had skin cancer and went through some treatment this summer, and now I'm in Gainesville to get my new nose.
Right.
Yay!
Because I had to take your old one off, right?
Yeah, they had to take my old one off, and I get a new one.
So check out our website. We'll have new pictures up. We've actually gone by what they call the graffiti wall. Do you want to explain the graffiti wall?
Yes, here in Gainesville, graffiti is actually illegal, like in a lot of cities, except for this one wall. And it has been dedicated to a bunch of different things and tributes, rest in peace. But in 1990, many of you may remember or know about Danny Rawlings, who murdered a total of 7 people, 5 here in Gainesville, 2 in Louisiana. And so there's a portion of the wall dedicated to the 5 UF college students that he murdered.
Yes, and we're planning to do a Patreon show on Danny Rawlings. So look out for that and sign up, be a patron. We need a patron. We need as many patrons as we can get.
Yes.
So help us some girls out.
Yes, and we're also going to have a blog up, which can be viewed from our website as well. And we'll go over some more details about us and, you know, my cancer journey, and then the photos of the wall and those sort of things.
Awesome. So what murder are we going to talk about this week?
Well, this week we're going to talk about the murder of Joseph Andriano. Am I saying that right?
Andriano or Andriano? I'm thinking it's Andriano, but you know, people butcher my last name all the time. So
as to mine as well, and it's only 6 letters. All right, so Wendi and Joseph Adriano were married in January of 1994, and unfortunately, Joe became ill within just a few years of his marriage to Wendi. By 2000, the couple had 2 small daughters and the terminal diagnosis of adenoid cystic carcinoma, which had been misdiagnosed originally in 1998. After attempting holistic therapies for his illness, he then resorted finally to chemotherapy. But by this time, the cancer had spread to his lungs, and he was deemed terminal.
Okay, so carcinoma, that's like serious cancer. Like carcinoma to me means deadly.
No, not necessarily, because my cancer was a carcinoma.
Your cancer was a
yes.
Okay.
I had basal cell carcinoma.
Okay.
It wasn't terminal, but I mean, you know.
But carcinoma does not just mean the death sentence right away.
No.
Okay.
No. All right. So by this time, Wendi was growing very resentful because of her added responsibilities. Due to his terminal diagnosis, he was unable to work. Wendi was caring for the house, the children, and Joe, all while managing an apartment complex as well. So that was her job, was to manage the apartment complex that they lived in. So As a result of this, Wendi began frequenting bars and had at least 2 affairs, and even started attempting to obtain life insurance policies for her husband. Obviously, when you get life insurance, you just don't, get it. There are pre-screening interviews and processes, and sometimes medical appointments and that sort of thing. So she even asked some friends to pose as her husband during these pre-screening interviews.
Okay, so she's going to bars and having affairs with other people while he's home taking care of the children, and he's sick.
I don't even know if how much he could take care of the children. And they were very young. I didn't find anywhere where it gave the children's age, but they were young girls. So this might be after she put them to bed, and then she went out for the night.
Okay.
During August and September of 2000, Wendi attempted to obtain these life insurance policies from several different companies. During the pre-screening process, she would claim that Joe did not have cancer. One agent even contacted Joe after receiving an application, and he declined, stating that he was not interested in having any life insurance.
So I'm wondering, did he even care what happened to his wife and children after they died?
To me, it doesn't. He didn't care about having life insurance.
Did they know that he was terminal? Like, did they know that? Okay.
Yes. So, Wendi sent an email 3 days later asking for his request to be reinstated and that all communication be made directly to her. She also asked 2 different men to pose as her husband during a physical exam.
Oh.
Both of those men were like, yeah, I don't think so. So she offered to pay one $50,000, but both declined. No insurance policy was ever purchased for her efforts. During the summer of 2000, Wendi had a brief extramarital affair with a gentleman named Rick, a resident of the apartment complex where she lived and worked as a property manager. The affair ended in July when Rick learned that Andriano was married and had children. So he didn't know that she was married, that her husband was sick, and that she even had kids. Which, if they lived in this, I don't know, maybe it was a really big apartment complex, and he didn't see her coming and going from her apartment and her kids and her husband.
Right. Well, I don't really know anything about any of my neighbors. Do you? I wouldn't know if my neighbors are married or just living in sin. Living in sin.
No, I'm just
listening. Cohabitating.
Well, despite his rejections of her advances, Andrea, I can't say her name.
Andriano is how I would say it.
I'm just going to call her Wendi.
Okay.
All right. So Wendi aggressively pursued Rick.
She had a... I was going to say a hard-on, but no, that's not going to work, is it?
That's what I was thinking, too. So on one occasion, she stood outside his apartment late at night, banging on his door for 5 minutes, demanding to be let in, and threatened to get the master pass key if he did not let her
Whoa.
in. Yeah. Psycho. So during this same summer, Wendi frequented bars on a weekly basis with coworkers and friends. There she was seen dancing and flirting and even groping and kissing men. Okay, I'm sorry, this is not the behavior of a woman whose husband is terminally ill, but maybe this just is
now, how old is she?
Well, they were married in 94, and she was 27, and so by
90. She was 24 when they got married.
He was 27.
Right.
Okay. So he was 27, she was 24 when they got married. So about in the year 2000, when...
She would have been 30.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So
she's out dancing and flirting with men when her husband's home dying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So on September 27th, the evening after Joe's 4th chemotherapy treatment, Wendi went to a dance club and began dancing provocatively with and kissing a man that she met there. They ultimately returned to Wendi and Joe's apartment and had sex. Now, where was Joe?
Was he in the apartment? He's still alive September 27th, correct?
Yes, that is correct. However, during a phone conversation the following day, Wendi told the man that her husband was already dead and had died from cancer. So why are we here talking about this family? Well, here's what happened. According to court records, the Andriano, and whatever their name is. Andriano, and I'm so sorry. Their family had attended a barbecue on October 7th, 2000. And after arriving home, and they arrived home around midnight. So they put the kids to bed and were calling it a night. Well, a little after 2 a.m., Wendi called her co-worker who lived in the same complex to ask if they could come over and watch the girls while Wendi took Joe to the ER. When Chris met Wendi in the front yard of their apartment...
And Chris is the co-worker.
Yes, Chris is the co-worker, sorry. She stated that she had a problem and for them not to ask any questions. I would have been like, I got a question.
Well, if the coworker knows that Joe is dying and has terminal cancer, it might not be a whole lot of questions. I need to get him to the ER right now. I don't have time for questions. I've got to go.
Right. Okay. So she stated that she had this problem for them not to ask any questions. She also said that her husband was on the floor dying and that she had not called 911 yet. Also, that Joe did not know that she hadn't called 911 yet. So this coworker, Chris, pleaded with Wendi to call 911.
Well, why would she? So she asked Chris to come over and watch the girls while she took Joe to the ER.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. So upon entering the apartment, Chris found Joe lying on the living room floor in the fetal position. He was very weak, having difficulty breathing, and had vomited as well. Wendi went into another room to call 911, and Joe asked Chris why it was taking 45 minutes for the EMS to arrive.
Poor guy. Good God.
He stated that he needed help, and he has needed it for a long time. So Wendi returned to the room and said that the EMS was responding to another call and that she needed to get Joe to her car. When Joe could not stand up, Wendi couldn't lift him, she became irate and started cursing and yelling at
And this is what Chris is testifying or saying happened.
Yes. Yeah.
And did Chris help at all, or is he just standing there?
It didn't really sound like he was trying to help too much, but this was all per court documents, court records.
Right.
So when Chris heard the approaching sirens, he went outside to meet with the paramedics. It was then that Wendi came outside of the apartment and began screaming at the paramedics for them to leave and retreated back into the apartment, slamming the door. Chris, along with 4 paramedics, began knocking on the door to no avail.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like she flipped her shit, slammed the door. So after about 10 minutes of knocking, the Phoenix Fire Department started calling the apartment phone in an attempt to get Wendi to answer the door. The paramedics were then informed that someone made contact with Wendi and that she would come to the door. However, instead of using the front door, Wendi came out the back door, climbed over a patio wall, walked around the entire building to the front door where the paramedics and Chris were standing.
So she doesn't want to let them in.
Correct. So she had changed clothes and appeared to have taken a shower. She informed the paramedics that Joe had terminal cancer and had a DNR, and that the paramedics and Chris should leave without ever going inside the apartment.
And a DNR, of course, is a do not resuscitate order.
Correct. All right, so they left without ever going inside.
Okay, I'm sorry, but there's so many questions that I have right now. So first of all, she calls someone over, lets him in the house, and he sees this man in a fetal position on the floor. He goes outside and waits for the cops or the ambulance. Mm-hmm. When they get there, she locks the door and will not let them in.
Yes.
So there's some time that elapsed there, and in that time, she took a shower and changed her clothes.
She appears to have taken a shower and changed her clothes. That is correct.
So he was alive when Chris was in the apartment. Joe was alive.
Yes.
Okay.
So, like I said, instead of using the front door...
But the paramedics should not have left.
But I guess if they have a DNR, they don't have a choice. They don't have to be... They can't...
Do they not have to see evidence of a DNR? I mean, I could say, oh, my husband has a DNR, when he might not.
But maybe... Because Chris knew, yes, he has terminal cancer. So there was someone there who knew that.
Just, it seems really shady to me that there's a 911 call and they don't demand to go in and talk to the victim or the sick person.
Well, I mean, that's like if you get in a car wreck, they can't take you without, I mean, unless you're unconscious, but if you're awake.
Yeah, if you're awake. But if someone else said, oh, well, she's not going, I mean, that's not your choice to make without someone saying, Cindy, do you agree with that? Okay.
Yep. No,
It just something doesn't seem right there.
Oh,
What?
totally.
Now, where is this taking place again? Because I don't remember.
Phoenix,
Arizona. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so they left. Well, around 3:30 a.m., Wendi called 911 again. And the same paramedics arrived to see Wendi standing on the front lawn in a bloody shirt speaking to a police officer. The paramedics entered the apartment to find Joe lying on the floor in a pool of blood. He had a stab wound to the neck and lacerations on his head that was so severe that brain matter was exposed.
Oh my God.
Police officer observed...
So, wait a minute. Stabbing someone in the head so their brain is exposed?
Well, he had a stab wound in the neck and then lacerations on his head.
Lacerations on your head so that brain matter was exposed.
Yeah, so he got his head beat in.
Laceration. Okay, I'm thinking stab wounds. My brain is not functioning today. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So a police officer observed at 3:52 a.m. that the blood around Joe's head was already starting to dry.
Ooh.
Yeah, if she called 911 right away, the blood wouldn't be drying already.
Well, I'm not a forensic scientist, but you would think that it would...
20 minutes? I mean,
okay.
Not a pool of blood. I wouldn't think it was already. But, I mean, like you said, we're not forensic scientists. I have no idea. It was brought up, so I'm assuming it was brought up for a reason.
Right.
So a broken bar stool covered in blood was found near Joe's body, as were pieces of lamp, a kitchen knife with blood on it, on the sharp edge, a bloody pillow, and a belt.
Whoa.
Yeah. Something serious went on here. All right. So after a search of the Andriano's storage unit revealed an open cardboard shipping box containing a 500-gram bottle of sodium azide. It's a pesticide, which essentially it's like cyanide or arsenic, cyanide type. I looked it up. It's a pesticide.
Okay.
So 2 Tupperware containers containing this sodium azide. So that's probably not how you say it.
Azide is how I would say it, but I don't know.
Azide.
I might be wrong.
It. 9 Q-tips, a plastic knife and fork, 2 pairs of latex gloves. So Wendi's fingerprints were found on a few of these items, such as the plastic knife and the vacuum-packed bag in which the cardboard box was shipped. So I tried to picture this in my mind. So I'm assuming that whatever was in the box is hazardous. So it's actually inside of an air vacuum sealed package, and then probably put in something.
9 Q-tips.
Yeah, why 9 Q-tips? So, also during the search of the apartment, the police found gelatin capsules filled with this sodium azide. Is that how you're saying it?
That's how I say it. I don't know if it's right or not.
In a bottle labeled for an herbal supplement.
Okay.
That's not suspicious at all?
Well, those, yeah, no kidding. Those, I actually went to the Vitamin Shop or someplace like that, one of those, and you can buy those capsules and fill them with your own whatever.
Yeah. I know people who put like CBD oil in it or a different kind of like, or essential oils, and then they put them in the gelatin or vegetable caps so that they don't have to taste it.
Right.
Just,
So he's maybe taking this thinking, oh, yeah, this is an herbal supplement.
Yes.
Because if you have cancer, you want to try anything to make yourself better.
Yes. So trace amounts of this sodium azide was also found in a pot of soup and several bowls in the kitchen. Several really being like 2 or 3. In all, 20.8 grams of this poisonous substance could not be accounted for. So
she is, I'm guessing she's poisoning her husband.
Yes.
And the thing to me that's odd about this is, that sometimes takes a while. Mm-hmm. He's dying.
Yes.
He's terminally ill. She just wants to rush the process.
Yes. Yes. There's going to be more that comes of that here in a minute. So, the medical examiner determined that Joe sustained a brain hemorrhaging. Say it for me.
Hemorrhaging.
Thank you. Due to no fewer than 23 blows to the head. 8 to 10, which could have rendered him unconscious. Defensive wounds to his hands and wrists indicate that he was awake for at least part of the attack.
Oh my, that poor man.
Oh no. The woman that you married, you have babies with, who is supposed to be taking care of you and loving you, just beat you in the head with a bar stool.
And for sure it was her. I mean, she had the bloody shirt.
Yes. Yeah, it was her.
Okay.
So Joe sustained...
I mean, wait a second. 23 blows to the head. That had to be some... She had some anger issues.
Yeah. Yes. So Joe also sustained a 3 3/4 inch long by 2 inch wide stab wound to the left side of his neck that extended to the spine, severing his carotid artery.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the bashing of the head didn't do it...
Well, that would definitely do it, yeah.
So, the medical examiner determined that Joe received the blows to the head prior to the stabbing and was alive when he was stabbed. But that most likely, he was not conscious at the time. I mean, hopefully he wasn't. All right, so... Again, trace amounts of this poisonous substance was found in his blood and gastric contents. Cause of death was blunt force trauma and the stab wound.
Okay.
All right, so there's more though. There's more evidence. So based on the blood splatter and other evidence, it was concluded that Joe was lying down when he was attacked and was unable to get up. So he was just had to take it. Like, he couldn't really, he'd just hold up his hands like, please don't.
And he was probably so weak anyway.
Well, especially if he had all that poison in his body. So,
and not to mention the chemo, which is another type of poison altogether.
So detectives further testified that based on the absence of the arterial spurting on the belt and the knife, that both items were placed beside Joe's body after he died. Because it would have been like, I guess there was like a void. So it would have... I guess it just...
Does that matter to the trial?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess just more evidence sitting down next to him because, like, those items were there. They would have blood on them if they were sitting there next to him.
Right. Okay.
All right. So, blood spatter on the bar stool, on the other hand, suggests that the bar stool was present when the arterial spurting began. So, the bar stool was sitting right there when he was stabbed, and then blood got all over it. Yeah. So... As if there wasn't enough evidence against her, she was taken into custody. So she called one of her coworkers and asked them to hide certain items that were left at her place of work, like her office. I didn't go into detail about what these items were, but so according...
Wait, but did her coworker hide the stuff?
It actually didn't say. All the information that I read, it just gave that information, but it didn't say that they hid anything. It doesn't sound like any of her coworkers at this point, they were all kind of...
They were honest with
this crazy bitch.
Okay.
Excuse me. So, Wendi was indicted on 1 count of first-degree murder. The state filed a notice to intent to seek the death penalty and subsequently alleged that there were 2 aggravating factors. Wendi committed the offense in the expectation of receipt of anything in...
pecuniary value. So she was expecting to get money from his death.
Right. But she was never able to get those life insurance policies, but there's something else. And she committed murder in an especially heinous, cruel, and depraved manner. The state also further alleged the offense was a dangerous felony, meaning that it involved the intentional or knowing infliction of serious physical pain upon Joseph Andriano.
Aww.
Oh, it's very sad. At trial, Wendi would testify, and she would claim a whole plethora of things, including that it was a failed suicide attempt, and that when that didn't work out, everything went to shit. So Joe apparently was asking her why he was missing a condom.
All right.
And that turned into a knockdown, drag out fight between them. So
according to her testimony.
So let's say I have 7 condoms. Wendi, why is one missing? And now I only have 6 condoms. Well, Joe, I'm sorry to tell you, but I've been having an affair. Well, he lost his shit and allegedly tried to choke her with a telephone cord. And she was able to get a knife, cut the telephone cord, and she also states that he grabbed the knife and was coming at her, and then...
So she's claiming domestic abuse.
Yes. She's saying that she was a battered wife and that he had been abusive.
So wait, first she says it's a suicide attempt gone wrong.
Correct.
then now it's domestic violence.
Correct. And she was able to cut the telephone cord that he was trying to choke her with, and then the knife got knocked out of her hand, and he grabbed the knife, and then she beat him in the head with the bar stool, and he stabbed himself in the throat.
Okay,
and
that's...
slit his own throat.
All right.
So it all boils down to, she says, this is self-defense.
All right.
She continues to testify that Joe stabbed himself in the neck and slit his own throat. However, Wendy's hairdresser... because, we tell our hairdressers everything. I mean, I don't, but I guess some people do. I know someone whose mother actually hired their hairdresser to murder their ex-husband.
What?
Yes. That's a story for another day.
Maybe that's a good Patreon story.
Oh, that might be a good Patreon, yes. So Wendy's hairdresser would testify that Wendi had said she would not leave her husband due to his illness, but wanted him dead so that she could pursue another relationship with someone else. Another piece of information is that she also claimed that because she was a battered wife and she wasn't attracted to her abusive husband anymore, that when they would have sex, that she would have to use a lubricant. And I guess that was proof that I'm not attracted to him, so...
that I didn't want to have sex. So he was abusing me. He was kind of like taking it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But come to find out, her boyfriend Rick that she had on the side, she had to use personal lubricant with him as well.
So he testified that she had her own personal lubricant.
Yes.
She's just a dried up old hag.
She sure is.
Okay.
All right. So while at trial, the judge had to give a clarity on what cruelty actually meant. So he had to give the jury instruction. All right. And this is what he said. Cruelty involves the infliction of physical pain and or mental anguish on a victim before death. A crime is committed on an especially cruel manner when a defendant either knew or should have known that the manner in which the crime is being committed could cause the victim to experience physical pain or mental anguish before their death. The victim must be conscious, thank you, for at least some portion of the time when the pain and or anguish was inflicted.
Okay, so the judge gives the jury this definition and says, in order for this to be death penalty,
correct, sorry,
it has to be cruel,
heinous, inhumane.
And so just looking at it through the eyes of the ME, the medical examiner, he said that Joe was conscious for some portion of it.
Yes.
When he was being beaten in the head 23 times with a bar stool.
Correct.
When part of his throat was being slashed,
yes,
correct?
They said he was definitely alive when his throat was slashed, but that it was unlikely he was awake. But they said he was probably beaten in the head 8 to 10 times.
But he was conscious during part of that.
Yes. They said he was probably awake 8 to 10 after 8 to 10 beatings.
And I can see, then experience physical pain. Yeah, that freaking hurts.
Yeah.
But also mental anguish. I mean, this is my wife. I'm dying. I'm sick. I know that I'm a burden on her.
Yes.
And she's using my condoms with some other man.
I know, right? Gross. All right. Well, so on November 18th, 2004, Wendi Elizabeth Ochoa Andriano was found guilty of first-degree murder. Due to the heinous cruelty and depravity of the crime, and because the crime was financially motivated, she was sentenced to death by lethal injection on December 22nd, 2004.
So she was sentenced to death, but she was not. Yeah.
Yeah.
She sits on death row.
Yes, of course.
And of course, when you're on death row, you get an appeal, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's automatic. There's an automatic appeal. They go back and they automatically look at it. So, Wendi filed for post-conviction appeal in 2007, claiming that the evidence of her affairs and the efforts to buy life insurance policies for her ailing husband unfairly prejudiced her in front of the jury. She also claimed that the jurors were not allowed to consider lesser charges such as second-degree murder or manslaughter, claiming that the judge wouldn't have given the cruelty explanation. If he wouldn't have given the cruelty explanation, then maybe they would have been deadlocked.
But that's what the prosecutor was going for, was the death penalty.
Correct.
So he had to give them that definition of cruelty.
So, but ultimately in July of 2007, the Arizona Supreme Court upheld her death sentence.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So as of 2011, She is one of 3 women on death row and is currently residing at the Lumley Unit in Arizona State Prison
Now,
Complex.
you said as of 2011. What about as of December 29th, 2019? Is she still alive?
Yes, she is. She is still on death row. There are some other things that she was complaining about, I guess you could say, with her. She was a whore, all right.
She was a whore.
With her trial. So, in one of her appeals, she argues that the trial court coerced the death verdict in 2 days when it gave the impasse instruction. So the impasse instruction was 1, by giving instruction before ascertaining whether the jury was truly deadlocked. 2, by improperly instructing the jury about its duty to deliberate. Because remember I said that they asked a question and they might have possibly, what they did is they asked about being, what happens if we can't come to...
Right.
It wasn't that they were deadlocked.
But that was on the second day of deliberations. And this is a death penalty case. So, And
there are some interviews with some jury members that say, one person's 90-something-year-old grandmother passed away and she wasn't able to go see her. Another guy was in between jobs. And, so this was kind of we have lives, so what the hell happens if we can't come to it?
Right. We don't really have time for this. And, I had jury duty and it was an attempted murder case. It wasn't a murder case.
Interesting.
But... you always have that in your mind. Am I making the right choice? Is this guy really a murderer? Is he really not a murderer? You always have that in your head. Like, this could ruin someone's life.
Mm-hmm.
This could kill someone. So
right.
it is something you would want to avoid, I would think. I wouldn't want to be death penalty jury.
I don't know about that.
I know you would.
But there's also other things to consider. What we do in our Monday through Friday jobs,
right?
We don't get paid a lot anyway, so we don't get paid. I don't know. We might we do. Actually, we get paid if we have jury duty.
Right.
We just have to but not everybody does.
Right.
My husband had jury duty, almost 20 years ago, before we had, careers, I would say. And he had to take time off from his hourly job to go make less money.
Right.
It was like $8
because they only have to pay you minimum wage.
Yeah.
Or something like
and
that.
I think my husband was waiting tables at that time.
But they only have to do that after a certain length of time, too. You don't get paid, like, the first or second day. I think it's after so much time.
I think you got a check for, like, $16.
Yeah. Woohoo!
Right?
Right? Hey.
Hey.
That's a good bottle of vino, or at least a... Okay.
All right. That's a CVS bottle of wine right there.
Yeah.
So it also... What she was also complaining about, it says... if he wouldn't have given them some explanation, then maybe they would have been deadlocked. But it was really here nor there, because near the end of the second day of the penalty phase of the deliberations, the jury submitted the following question. Okay, so at the second day, if we're unable to reach a unanimous verdict, what is the procedure that will be followed? I can speak. The court... Okay, get ready for this. This is long-winded. The court instructed the jury as follows. It appears from your note that you are at a deadlock in your deliberations. I have some suggestions to help your deliberations, not to force you to reach a verdict. I am merely trying to be responsive to your apparent need for help. I do not wish or intend to force a verdict. Each juror has a duty to consult with one another, to deliberate with the view of reaching an agreement. It can be done without violence to individual judgment. No juror should surrender his or her honest conviction as to the weight or effect of the eviction solely because of the opinion of the other jurors or the purpose of reaching a verdict. However, you may want to identify some areas of agreement and disagreement and discuss the law and the evidence as they relate to the areas of the disagreement. If you still disagree, you may wish to tell the attorneys and me which issues, questions, law, or facts you would like us to assist you with. If you decide to follow the suggestion, please write down the issues, questions, laws, or facts on which we can possibly help. Please give your note to the bailiff. We will then discuss your note and try to help. The jury asked no further questions and returned a death verdict in 2 days.
So they didn't really have any questions. They just didn't want to deliberate about it, right?
Yeah, they just were like, well, what if? How long am I going to have to be here? What am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? I got a baby at home. Yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So
So anyway, the Supreme Court upheld the decisions of the trial court, and the bitch is waiting for her death date.
Yes. So inmate number 191593 is rotting in Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville.
Is there any date whatsoever for her her death?
No.
Okay.
Nope. And that's the story of a dried up old hag.
Thanks, Cindy. So, thank you, listeners, for giving our It Wasn't Me another chance. We appreciate you. We also would appreciate if you would support us by subscribing to our podcast. And while you're there, giving us a 5-star rating. You know, we're awesome. We deserve it. Yep. Leave us a comment if you have any suggestions for something you would like us to research and to report on. Drop us a line there. If you will, please leave us a comment because it is essential to our success and it helps push us up the charts. Please take a moment to do so on your favorite platform. For more information and links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, visit our website at itwasn'tmetruecrime.com.
We are so grateful to spend our time together to share our murderous stories. Thank you so much for listening and supporting us. We would like to thank our Patreon supporters as well. They are the extra. You too can become one of our beloved patrons by signing up at patreon.com/itwasn'tmepod. Subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. And thanks again, guys. And remember,
it wasn't me.